folks, I'm here today in Automobilista 1 to take a look at the 1958 Grand Prix World Championship mod. And this is a mod that came out right at the end of 2020 and of course simulates the Formula 1 1958 season. Posted by GT Speedster. I believe this is a mod based off of a conversion from older R-Factor 1 cars, but the conversion really doesn't do it justice because clearly there's been a lot of effort put in to clean up and spruce up the models and everything, as well as the physics themselves. And really the reason I'm showing it off today, I'm just in love with how these cars feel. So this is a really complete mod, and I wanted to go through some of the menu screens just to give a little bit of a sense for those of you that haven't seen it. But it covers, of course, pretty much every vehicle that possibly raced in 1958 and then some, and I believe their mission really is to cover every single car and every single variant that might have raced in the 1958 Formula 1 season. So all of your favorites are here. Of course, the Ferrari 246, driven famously by Mike Hawthorne and others, but Mike Hawthorne being the champion from the 1958 season. And I'll bring you into the showroom. You can already see that there's a Morocco variant of the car, but then if I bring you into the showroom, we actually have some configuration options, and these are not simple physics changes. You'll often see maybe something in here to adapt it to a different, force feedback model or something like that, but we actually have race-by-race variations on the car, and it's something that's been done for years with Formula 1 mods. But let's take a quick look at this. Here's the, I believe, the default. But if I click on German Grand Prix, you can see we have a different hood scoop. We've got some nice text explaining what this different system is. I got the Italian configuration with a glass bubble up front. Belgian GP, of course, high speed for Spa-Francorchamps. And I thought this was interesting, especially we have the normal drum brakes, or I can actually install Dunlop disc brakes, and it looks like these were actually things that were raced. We got a nice little history snippet here about in 1959 with some disc brakes. So car by car, if you go through them, that's just the Ferrari, but take a look, for example, I don't know, at the Van Wall, the Corse Van Wall, driven by Sterling Moss, Tony Brooks, pretty famous car, and I don't believe this one has any specific configuration options, but it is a beautiful model. One of the cool cars from this time period, of course. And in 1958, the big story was the mid-engined, rear-engined cars, or really more mid-engined cars from Cooper with the T45. I'll show you this one a little more closer up. And this is where that rear-end revolution started. 1958 really was the last season that front-engine cars dominated, but I believe this Cooper had a few wins by the Rob Walker racing team early in the season, and so by 1959, the next season, it was all about going to the rear engines, and I think Ferrari was the holdout waiting until 1961 to actually make a rear-engined car. So overall, you have a bunch of different car options. I'm actually interested to see what else there might be for configuration options. This little Lotus is very cool as well. I've got a couple of these. But of course, all the different drivers and everything, it's a really cool looking car. And then of course we can select those all for racing, and so the real treat of this is definitely the driving, and so I want to take things out. I should mention that this mod does have an accompanying Spa-Francorchamps track, and it's pretty nice. It's definitely based on the R-Factor 2 Spa, which has made its rounds through various sims, but no problems with it at all. However, I race Spa all the time, so I wanted to go somewhere slightly different. And I've brought the 58 mod to a little circuit called Cordoba in Argentina. This is one of the tracks that ships with Automobilista 1, and if you've never heard of it, don't worry, because I hadn't either, but I've really enjoyed exploring some of these different South American tracks, and I don't think they get enough coverage, so I decided to bring the cars here. It fits them perfectly. Even though the track's based in the modern day, it's got a lot of classic characteristics, and we'll actually rev up the Ferrari 246 that I've chosen here, put it in gear first and get out of the pit lane. Just go for a quick sighting lap. We're here in practice, so got the cars lapping. We can see one of the Maseratis in the distance there. It's a relatively simple circuit, and I tried to look up a little history about it, but there's not a lot out there on the net, or especially not a lot in English that I could read, or even in Spanish that I could translate. But it seems like the circuit itself has been around for a good number of years. I saw on their official website that it was celebrating a 40-year anniversary at some point. We'll dip it through this corner. Ooh, kind of quick coming out of the pits. But it doesn't seem like the layout's changed too much either in those years. And so what we have here is a nice, what I'd classify club circuit with a flowing layout. So we'll come around this corner. So if you can't notice already, the cars are very squirmy. They're really difficult to control with cold tires, but I found myself able to save these cars in lots of different situations that I would normally just lose the car in other sims like Assetto Corsa or even Grand Prix Legends, of course. Natural to draw some comparisons here to the 55 mod for Grand Prix Legends, which is very much a classic, but these cars feel amazing. They're very, very quick to change directions, but they're unstable as well, and you find yourself sawing at the wheel. Come through this final corner, a little bit of camber there to upset the car. Get on the power, you can see the back end want to spit out a little bit, come across the line, and head towards the first corner. You can get away with keeping the car in third gear for most of the lap around here. Whoa, quite a shallow entry into the corner. Just half throttle, three-quarter throttle until we get straight. Take 2 or 3 laps to get those tires up to temperature, but once they are, it's very controllable. Oh, missing my gear there. Found it's really easy to miss the gears. I think the shift timing, you have to be quite lengthy on the clutch compared to some other cars, so it wouldn't be a GP Laps video if I didn't miss my gear at some point. Hopefully that's the only one. Oh, car getting very sideways there, but you can see, able to catch it if you're quick on that wheel. And if you watch videos from the 1958 season, you'll see Hawthorne and Moss jostling the wheel back and forth as they come out of corners. Definitely was a driving style. A little too fast into the corner there. Even though you can catch it, it's still not extremely quick to do something like that. Oh, slide it out wide. Thank God there's a little runoff there, but I'll still get it on the dirt. Come through the final corner, see if I can put at least one clean lap in practice together. Car in front dipping tires off too, so it's not just me. Coming to turn 1. Tires should be pretty good now, but you can see I've got a little residual dirt on that left front. Right up to the line, flat on the straightaway. Even though this is a modern track, you've got poles right next to the circuit there, so not quite the safest circuit, but really enjoyable. There we go, getting the car nice and settled down to second gear. It's a tight right-hander here. Car in front running a little bit wide. Stop it down on the gas. Have to lift out of it for just a second. Just a dab off the throttle through the corner, but really to drive these cars, I left the pedal indicator on in the bottom right there, just so you could see some of my inputs is the car in front running a bit wide. But you'll notice lots of half, three-quarter throttle, and that's really how you have to drive the cars. They have way too much horsepower for the grip of the tires, and especially for how much they weigh. I'm gonna get that corner all wrong again, getting crossed up. But they're very progressive. If you can be slow on the throttle, no stomping anything down, you can absolutely slide them around. So it's fun doing some laps in practice, but why don't we race these things? So at the back of the grid, as I like to do to make things a little bit exciting, but wait for those lights, which I can only hear over here, go out. Here we go, underway. Very hard to get off the line, especially uphill like this. Probably lose a bit of time to the cars in front. But we're doing 10 laps here at Cordoba. Going up to third gear, just squealing, getting away, tiptoe through the first corner, whole field string out in front. Love how it's pretty much all red and green cars ahead. But now, go out to fourth gear, let the Ferrari sing a bit. This car is, of course, quick in a straight line, as they were. Come down to third gear. Nice and easy. Everybody's sorting themselves out. Well behaved, though. Whoa, and I see a car ahead spinning out. Just get on the brakes a little bit. One of the BRMs, maybe Bera. It's funny racing these because I'm recognizing the names from my 55 season, of course, only a couple years later, so a lot of the same drivers are still racing, but I feel like I've got some kind of personal relationship with them now. Well, the cars swinging out wide ahead, knocking into each other a little bit. You wouldn't want to do that in real life. We'll see if I can maybe come up the inside into this corner, down to second gear. Well, that one got away from me a bit, but it made me look good. All right, get up the gears a bit now, down to second. Let's see if I can do this a little better than practice. Practice makes perfect. Come through the corner, clipping the apex. And into the final corner, complete the first of 10 circuits here. Oh, kick of dust. Repeating everything the cars in front are doing. But you can see they're so slidey. The cars really just don't like traveling in a straight line, so you're constantly making corrections. It makes for a very dynamic and interesting driving experience. And I have to say, unlike anything I've raced before, I really feel like these cars are alive, or like I'm experiencing 50s Grand Prix cars for the first time. Come down to third gear. Can probably go a little bit quicker into this long sweeper, but very easy to overdo it, run wide. Come down to the second gear corner. Can I come up the inside of this Maserati? Maserati 250F, which is most of the cars that you're seeing on the screen, was one of the more predominant cars of the time period. I talked about it in my video where I put some big tires on that car, that it was a very good handling car, and by 1958 it was a classic Grand Prix car, having raced for several seasons, so many of them raced for different teams. Grand Prix racing was not like it was today. Cars were often bought by smaller teams. You can see that, of course, with Rob Walker's team buying some of the Coopers and being quite successful with them, winning races. I'll throw it up the inside there. That Maserati, come around again, complete that second lap. Just one by one, passing these cars. It's always fun to do races like this where you start at the back and work your way up the grid. It's great practice too for passing and figuring out where you're quicker than your competitors. Up the gearbox though. Could sometimes hit fourth here, but probably not needed on this lap. We'll just keep it in line for the sweeper. And I would love to know more about this circuit. It seems like it races some of the touring cars that are popular in South America. Whoa, come up the inside, maybe take two of them here. I think this car right in front of me now is Phil Hill. Third gear then. Oh, missing the gear, of course, but able to get the car slowed down, luckily, on the inside of Phil Hill there. And if I've got one complaint, this isn't necessarily for this mod, although I know it can be corrected, but the rear view mirrors are not working very well at all. You can tell they do something, but they're clearly not showing me what's directly behind me as, whew, the car gets very squirrely there. It seems to be a perennial issue in these ISI sims. R Factor 2, of course Automobilista here. Starting even back with F1 Challenge, it's just so hard for some reason for the mirrors to be in the right spot. That's a really important part of racing, of course. When you have mirrors, you need to use them. I think a lot of folks probably race with the virtual mirrors, so they don't see that as much, but definitely always gets on my nerves. So we'll come through the corner. I think I got two of the Lotus cars in front of me. They're so much smaller than the rest of the grid. If you can see the van wall 3 cars ahead, it's so much bigger, especially in the back there, than these 2 little Lotus cars in front of me. I think I've got Allison and then Graham Hill in front of him. You'll recognize the blue helmet with the stripes. Oh, getting a little crossed up. And I do like the circuit has very few lines on the track, just that one center line. Makes it quite difficult to know where you are. All right, jostling the wheel there. Just try to stamp down on the throttle once you know you've got the car pitched straight. Coming up the inside here of Allison into turn 1. I think we're on the 5th lap now. Lap counter's just off screen for you. Making it around Allison, now snuck in behind Graham Hill. You can see the helmet there, of course. Ooh, getting very close to Hill. But making that pass down to 3rd gear. Lots of good things ahead for Hill, of course. And Sterling Moss directly in front of me in that van wall at number 7. Interestingly, Moss did race for several teams in 1958. He raced, of course, for Van Wall for most of the season, but he raced also for Rob Walker in South America. F1 did come to South America in Argentina specifically in 1958, racing in Buenos Aires. And of course, we're in the same country, but this track does somewhat remind me of that circuit. Feels like tracks do have similarities in the same country. See if I can maybe squeak it up the inside of Moss here. Oh, and he gives it to me. But now set in behind my old pal, Maurice Trentino. Oh, missing the gear very badly that time, up to 3rd. If I had good mirrors, I'd worry about Moss behind me, but no worries now. Oh, car just kicking sideways there. Running up the rev range. Of course, only a 4-speed gearbox in this car, so on this circuit, really feel comfortable just using 2nd and 3rd, maybe 4th there. See if I can come up the inside of Trentino. There we go, 2nd gear, finally got it. Whoa, sliding the car there. And that's not something I've ever been able to do in other sims, but if you watch videos of these cars from this era racing, if you did cook it into a corner, it would slide sideways like that. It's so much fun. Now we'll work towards another BRM. Just missing the apex there. So constantly gathering the car up. Almost every corner is somewhat of a slide and just seeing what happens, what the car wants to do. Thought I had it for a second there. Come across the line, so we're on lap 7 of 10 now. Put it into 2nd for turn 1 this time, see if I can get a better line through there. Whoa. Up into 3rd gear, shot the car wide a little bit. I can see a red car way up front. I'd have to guess that that is Hawthorne. Well, I'll put it into 2nd there, not needed. Still learning the cars, of course. I've only spent a couple hours with them at this stage, but just had to do a video because they're so awesome to drive. And having them in a sim like AMS is quite awesome. I'm really loving the sim. I know it's quite old at this point, but the handling is great. It runs very well. The AI is mostly good. They're good around here with these cars, luckily. Come right up behind Shell here. Oh, just not enough to do it that time. See if I can set him up for the front straightaway. Up through third gear. Oh, and he's braking quite late. Cars up here at the front are a little more competitive than those at the back. Getting a good eye on this BRM now. I think the cars look very nice indeed. The modeling, in my opinion, is right up there with some of the best cars for AMS. Oh, taking Shell up the inside there. Oh, gonna run a little wide, right against the edge of the circuit, luckily. Holding on to it. Oh, I was hoping I could get a late apex. But now hard on the gas. Come to the kink up to third gear. But keeping it in front of Shell, luckily. Oh, you can hear the tires squeal there for a second. Come down to second gear. Oh, a little fast this time. Walk it up over the curb. Luckily, got some runoff there. That's the difference between a modern circuit and an older track. It definitely would not have been some pavement there in the old days. Enough people did that, though, that the circuit put in some asphalt. So we'll come just a couple laps to go now. Speedy cars too. This is a short circuit, so obviously not going to hit anything like a top speed, just topping out at about 140 there. Fast enough, no doubt, but something around Spa really go fast, and the cars are just as active as they are here. So I don't know if I'm going to catch my teammate up there. We'll see what I can do here. Oh, things like that aren't going to help me. Or that either. All right, so making a mess of things here in the last couple of laps. Try to get the power back down, but I've got very dirty tires, and that's one of the things in these sims. With Automobilista, if you run off the circuit, you actually do pick up some dirt on the tires, and it makes them less grippy until they get cleaned off, and you can see them slowly clean themselves, but turn one here would be difficult to do at the normal pace, so take it quite easy. Come through, we're on the last lap now. All the way down the straightaway. And you use the throttle a lot to turn the car. Maybe not doing the best to give anybody driving instructions here, but you do brake the car, and then you'll see we use a lot of throttle just to get the car to turn. You want to use that throttle to help balance the weight of the car. We'll come through the last few corners. Come out nice and wide down to second gear. Try to slide the car through. missing the apex completely. See if I can finally get this corner up here correct. Brake a little more than normal. Oh, car braking loose. That's a difficult one for these types of cars. It's very tight. We'll come through the final corner then. Luckily avoided that outside wall the whole time. We'll come to the line and complete just a little fun race in these cars. Ultimately got up to third place there. But yeah, nothing too serious. I just wanted to do a first look of this 1958 mod. Nothing but fun with the 1958 mod for Automobilista. If you have Automobilista and you like older Grand Prix cars, which I hope you do if you're watching this, then this is a no-brainer to pick up. It's a ton of fun to throw around some tracks, and even though the full actual Formula One season calendar of races doesn't exist for AMS, obviously some of these tracks that the sim does have are great fun. So there are a few rough edges here and there. The mod author explained they're going to work on a few of the performance issues. You might notice a little stuttering in the replay and the mirrors, of course, that I called out. But overall, it's really well done and it handles amazingly. So I hope you enjoyed it, and let me know if there's some other racing you'd want to see with this. Maybe I'll go on a more conventional Formula One track, but something different for the initial first look of this. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you all again next time.